Okay, here we are the following day. Today they should start on rendering and the chain link fence somewhere along the way. We'll see what happens today. Yesterday was a very disastrous but interesting day, and today is another day with its own surprises. Alright, let's see what happens. Okay, so this morning they're putting together the C3 that's going to divide the chicken coop with a chain link fence. That metal will go on the sides and across the top to have something to weld the chain link fence to. The other thing that's going on this morning is they're back there in the back and they started rendering. So they're going to render that, and then they're going to render this. As you can see, it's darker than this because they put water on it and wet it down so that the rendering cement can adhere to it. Okay, so the rendering continues on that back wall. Some good news. They came this morning and they decided to add a C3 all the way across on top of that column and continuing, here on top of that column. On top of that column, it's not on top yet, but it's coming across this way. And there's the one hanging there, and there's the other one that's coming from underneath there. It'll be cut and welded and secured to the top of that column. And that's what should have happened yesterday. That's what's happening today. And they've added this right here in the middle, which you needed to tie both sides together. But yesterday they didn't want to do it, but finally they're doing it the right way, so good. And the rendering continues. They're on the back side. Now it's a matter of coming out towards this way. Okay, so the rendering continues on the back wall. And here they're starting to put the 2x2s that go up and down so that they can attach the chain link fence. It will be welded here across, down, and down at the bottom there are some pieces of round bar that they will be attached to, and then there will be a band of concrete encasing that wire at the bottom, so it'll be just like the wire here. So if you look, you'll see the wire into the cement being held on there. So the same thing will happen here. Okay, it's right about lunchtime. They're putting the finishing touches on that back wall. I'll show it to you this afternoon. But once they get the sponge and the broom out, that means they're almost done. So they're doing that. This front section here, if you look, it has the metal. All that it needs is the chain link. Right now he's doing inside of here, he's putting the metal on that, and over here they're putting some little pieces of block all underneath there to support that C3 going down that way. And then when he gets done, he will do the same thing to this one here. He will add little pieces of block all the way to the back wall. So I imagine that after lunch, they will render another wall. They will add the chain link, and if they get done, there's 2 people working on the rendering and 2 people working on the block and the fence and the chain link. So I imagine that if he finishes the block both here and here, he will help the other guy do the chain link, and then when they finish the chain link, I guess there will be a team to start rendering. That's my guess. Okay, here we are after lunch, and they're starting on this other wall. They're gonna render. He's finishing up on his welding. He's continuing on the block, and things are moving along. We'll see how things go by this afternoon. Okay, here we go. Now we have 3 rendering, so it should go a little faster. I guess they're going to leave the chain link for later, tomorrow. Don't know. But either way, we'll find out. Okay, the rendering continues. They've already done the top half. Now they're doing the bottom half. And what they do is they put 1 coat, let it dry some, and then go back and smooth it out, and then put the sponge on it and stuff. Now that pole that's sitting in that blue tank there, they normally use that to kind of level the wall, rendering cement. They have it there, a barrel's full of water, but they haven't used it once. It's just sitting there. I guess it's to mix the water. So this afternoon, after they're done, I guess I can take a close look and see how smooth and how level that thing is. Well, I guess level is really not so important, because that's what the block does. This is to give it the appearance of being level. So yeah, we'll go from there. Now over here, he's either done or almost done. Oh, he's almost done with the blocks under this metal here. He already did this one, so he's doing that back one. Okay, that wall is done. And by the way, I did see him use that big pole. I just wasn't by the camera when it happened. I had to go inside because Dioji needed a nap. He goes to sleep from 12 to about 3:30. It's now 4 o'clock, so we're outside again. So now they're gonna start on this wall. So by the end of today, they should have 3 walls done. This one, and the one in the back. All right, let's see what happens. Okay, this is the end of the day, and this wall was the first one to be rendered. Now it's pretty smooth, but to me it looks like it's pretty thin. But I guess we have to wait till it's completely dry before I say anything, I guess. Anyway, this was also done. The metal was put in here for the chain link fence. Half of this wall was done. Now, I don't much like leaving this and then picking it up the following day, but it is what it is. And as the night wears on, you do have a lot of moisture in the air, you have a lot of dew. So hopefully it won't have a problem blending into each other. Hopefully there won't be a problem blending into each other. And then this was put in, which is what I was trying to tell them to do. You need this to help support this thing instead of it waving all over the place. Now, the other thing that was done was the metal on this. However, the problem I see is they're going to render this, and to make it easy on themselves, they put this all the way on top. And what they should have done, they should have attached to that and laid it on top. So they've created a problem, but it was easy for them, and that's what they did. Same thing over here. And then here is this other one that attaches over there. And again, same thing. I don't know if it's laid up against the edge there or it's through. But either way, when they do more, it's going to create a problem. Well, the problem's already been created. Whoever does the next part of this thing, whether it's them or somebody else, we'll see what they do. It's just right there to the edge. It's not underneath. Okay, and here's the other part that'll have the chain link. The metal is up here. Hey guys, this is the following day. This is actually a continuation of yesterday. Today they won't be coming. They called last night about 7 p.m. and said we have things to do. Now yesterday when they left, I thought it was kind of odd. They rolled up the extension cord. They gathered the cement bags and put them in the trash. They took the ladder and brought it in. They gathered all the tools, which was kind of strange because normally they just leave shit everywhere. But I guess they already knew they weren't coming. And that's okay. But last night I was looking at this, and here's an afterthought. Now, when they were doing this, I asked them why this metal here was not attached to the metal going across. And the response was, my bad eye. So okay, But the thought didn't really occur to me until last night, because they put this C3 from this end all the way across on top of that wall and to the other side, which is fine because it's sitting on top of a wall, it's sitting on top of a column, it's being supported by another column and some metal in between. That's all fine. But what about the metal that goes here and here, going across from one end to the other? How is that going to go in there? And the thing about it is they're not going to do the rest of the metal, they're going to render. So what happens after it's rendered? And you have to do this. You have to cut into the block. And then at either end, it's going here. Now, this, there's a column here, but if it's butted up against the column and this metal is supporting it, what's going to support anything here? Now there is a small lip there. I imagine you can cut the block and weld the bottom of that C3 to the top of this C3 that goes across, but nothing else will support that. Plus, you will be cutting into a rendered wall. Not a good scenario. So hopefully they come tomorrow. Tomorrow is Saturday. Woon will be here and we can discuss that. Worst case scenario, they make the cuts everywhere that there's a C3 cutting into this wall here. I imagine every 2 meters would be okay, because then this would rest on top of the ones going across this way. So probably 2 here and 1 there minimum. So worst case scenario, if they cut the hole and then just put a piece like this going from one side of the wall to the other, and then later, whether they do it or somebody else does it, I guess they can weld to those little pieces and go to either side. We're gonna have to talk about this because this is not a very good scenario. The way it's going, if it's not one thing, it's another. And the reason we ended up with a metal sitting on top like this instead of metal going all the way around was because they eyeballed this wall, and when it was time to run the C3, hey, when it was time to run the C3, they didn't want to cut. They didn't want to cut the block back down so that metal would fit there. Okay, anyway. I know it sounds like a lot of complaining, but actually it's a lot of frustration because what could have been done right very easily from the beginning creates a lot of work. It creates more work than if they do it right the first time. You know, that's one thing I've always believed in. Do it right the first time. Even if it takes longer, it'll save you time. When you do things half-ass and you do them wrong, cut corners, whatever, sooner or later you're going to have to do something else, something else, something else. Before you know it, you spent 2-3 times the amount of time and money to do something you could have done right from the very beginning. Anyway, okay, we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching.
ขอบคุณเจ้า
See you next time.
แล้วปะกันแฮมไมนะเจ้า
See you.
บ๊ายบาย